Greetings everyone, we're back. We left off last time talking about what is a conservator. We talked about the fiduciary and now we talked about the conservator. And in this video we're going to talk about the types of conservatorships. Okay. There are several. By the way, we're reading from the Handbook for Conservators. It's a California handbook from the California Judicial Council, so it's very important. There are two types of conservatorships. We know that you can be conservator of the person and conservator of the estate. There are several types of conservatorships. In each type, the court may appoint a conservator of the person or a conservator of the estate, or both. A probate conservatorship, that's one of the types of conservatorships. A probate conservatorship are so called because they are based on laws found in the California Probate Code. A probate conservatorship may be a general, limited conservatorship, a temporary conservatorship. So we have general, limited, and temporary. I've never been in a limited conservatorship, but I've definitely had general and temporary, which I was then appointed. Sometimes you start with a temporary, if someone's resigning, conservators have the ability to say, you know what, I bit off more than I can chew on this. Sometimes the families really, after they haven't been there and you come on and here they come and it's like, wait a minute. What happened? How did you get here? This person is conserved now. Where were you? And so sometimes a fiduciary will say, well, this is a little too much. It's not what I signed up for. I mean, it happens. But it's our responsibility to stay strong and say, you know what? I'm appointed here. I'm going to stay here and make sure this person is well taken care of and they get the services. So back off. Okay, so we have probate conservatorships, general, limited, and temporary conservatorships. A general conservatorship these are set up for adults. These are set up for adults who can't handle their own finances or care for themselves. These conservatees are often older people with limitation caused by aging, but they also may be a younger person who has been seriously impaired as the result of an auto accident, for example. Think about that. Most people do think that, oh my goodness, if they're under conservatorship, they may have dementia or Alzheimer's, which most of the cases are elderly, but there's so many people who have been in accidents. Think about that. It can happen to any of us. So you have to be prepared with your wishes written down. That's so important to let your family and friends know how you want to be cared for in the case of incapacity. We don't think about that when we're young. We're young and we don't think about that, but it's something that all of us should think about, especially as soon as we start driving. Anytime, but Okay, so limited conservatorships. These may be set up for adults with developmental disabilities who cannot fully care for themselves or their property, but who do not need a higher level of care or help given under a general conservatorship. Because, sometimes people with developmental disabilities, they can do a lot. if you, give them the proper environment, the proper training, they really turn out to be able to function. I have several, well, a lot of the grocery store I shop at, they have developmental people working there with developmental disabilities, and it's great. Some of them are literally blind. Actually, there's two guys that really are seriously visually impaired. They're so nice and so happy to be working. And there's others there with developmental disabilities, so they're making a living. They're able to care for themselves, but they may be vulnerable in other areas, so they may have a limited or be under a limited conservatorship. Why? Because the vulnerability may be, they may be easily influenced. They may be taken advantage of. They may be working and someone's taking their money, knowing that they're not, as savvy. They're sweet as pie, but they're not as savvy. So someone's coming in, they know they're working and taking their money, or they may have a home or a living situation in an apartment, and someone sees that and says, hey, let me come in and stay with you, so yes, I've had those kind of cases, and you have to really take care of the person that you're assigned to. So that's what a limited conservatorship can be, and it's a lot with people with developmental disabilities, people that are blind, or mental developmental disabilities, autism, so yeah, those type of things. And then we have temporary conservatorships. These may be set up when a person needs immediate help. So yeah, oh my goodness. So say for instance, someone calls. There's an older person who's walking the streets, and they don't know where they are. They don't know where their family is. So you take the person, if the police comes, or social services, adult protective services come, and they'll say, you know what, we have to find out who this person is, because they may have wandered off and they didn't carry any ID on them. So they're put in a temporary conservatorship situation. That's one example, until they can do the investigation and hopefully find out where they are from, find their family, something like that. Also, it could be a case of abuse. A neighbor can call and say, wow, this parent is abusing this child. But in California, it's not called a conservatorship if you're under 18. It's called a guardianship. I don't really deal with those. I deal with adults, but I just wanted to give you an example of what could happen as far as a temporary conservatorship, because they're done in cases of emergencies, more likely than not. Okay, and it says, we're continuing with temporary conservatorships. A judge may appoint a temporary conservator of the person or of the estate, or both, for a specific period until permanent conservator can be appointed. A temporary conservator arranges for temporary care, protection, and support for the conservatee, and protects the conservatee's property from loss or damage. Remember, the conservatee is the person being conserved, the person who is incapacitated, the person who has a developmental disability. That's the conservatee. The LPS, the Lanterman Petrus Short Conservatorships, they are called so because they are based on Lanterman, Petrus, and Short Act of 1969. It's a law, and it's named after its sponsors in the California legislature. An LBS conservatorship must be created to arrange for certain kinds of very restrictive living arrangements and extended mental health treatment for people unable to provide for their own needs for food, clothing, shelter as a result of mental disorder, chronic alcoholism, and who cannot or will not agree to the arrangements for treatment voluntarily. So some people which is sad. You see a lot of them on the street, and a lot of them are being neglected. But if we are able to catch a hold of them, we put them in a situation, and it's usually a very restrictive environment, because conservatorships generally are not restrictive. You bring the services to the people that need them, or if they're in a location, say for instance an adult living situation, you make sure that they're being treated well. But in an LPS, it's again for people with a chronic mental disorder or chronic alcoholism, and they don't want to be treated voluntarily, so usually they're in a locked facility. I haven't had one of these because I get emotionally involved with my clients, because I want them to have the best life possible. So some things I just stay away from if I know it's going to be overwhelming. Also, that's probably another reason why I like dealing with the estates, not just because I'm really good with handling finances and investments and really smart with money and budgeting, but it's a less emotional type of conservatorship or type of fiduciary work. So that's one of the reasons. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for this one. We talked about the types of conservatorships, the probate conservatorship. We talked about the general conservatorships, limited conservatorships, and temporary conservatorships, as well as LPS, Lanterman, Petrus, short conservatorships. All of this work is very important. You know what? Let me stop here and mention, the licensing is pretty much new. I've been licensed since 2012. Although conservatorships are decades old, the licensing requirement has been since 2009. I've been in the business since 2008, and I got in on a real estate transaction through a trust. But it's still a very new business. It's still open. There's so many people that need the help. And for people and families that don't know where to turn, because sometimes they don't understand that there's help, that's another reason these videos are so important, and to understand some of the language. Okay, so next time we come back, I think we're going to focus a little bit on the estate. What is an estate? What does an estate mean? How can you protect yourself? How can you protect your assets? Thank you so much for this longer video. It's almost 13 minutes. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Peace and blessings. Oh, don't forget to leave your comment in the comment section. Any of your questions you want to ask, go ahead. I'll answer all of them. Thank you again for watching this video, and I look forward to bringing you more updated information and to keep you going with any of the questions you may have on how to care for yourself and prepare to care for yourself in the event of an emergency, or for a loved one that may be going through hard times right now. Thank you so much again. Peace and blessings.